All right, Miss Dammers. Call your next witness. The United States calls Antonio Sullivan. Sir, if you'll raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the cause before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, ma'am. Antonio Sullivan, plaintiff's witness, sworn. Thank you. Please state your name for the record. Antonio Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan, it's really hard to hear in here, so I need you to lean forward a little bit so the jurors can hear you when you talk into that microphone. Okay? All right. That's better. I'm sorry, Miss Dammers, before you start, are you going to need that monitor? Yes, thank you. If you need to sit somewhere else, go ahead, Mr. Lovell. I may, Judge. Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, are you a gang member? I was. You were. And what gang were you a member of? Growth and Development. Growth and Development. Is that also called the Gangster Disciples? Yes. Mr. Sullivan, we can't hear you. Yes. Yes. You're going to have to speak right into that microphone. Yes. That's better. So if you sit up, you'll have a better chance of actually speaking into the microphone. So how old were you when you joined the Gangster Disciples or Growth and Development? 9 or 10. 9 or 10. Where were you living then? Moved down here from Ohio to South Carolina. So you were in South Carolina when you joined the Gangster Disciples? Yes. When you joined, was there some sort of initiation that you had to go through when you were 9 or 10 years old? Back then it was. What was it? I got a beat in. I got jumped in. You got jumped in and beat in. Is that what you said? Yes. So what did that mean? That it was just an initiation stage that we went through then. So how many people jumped you? 6. Were they little kids too? No. It was basically just people that was just around my age during that time. So how long were you beaten for? 6 people. 6 minutes. Judge, I'm sorry. I cannot hear the gentleman. I don't think any of us can, Mr. O'Brien. Mr. Sullivan, you're going to have to sit up, raise that microphone up a little bit towards your mouth, and speak right into it. All right. So you said 6 minutes? 6 people, 6 minutes. And were you supposed to fight back? Of course. So you are, right now you're in custody. Is that correct? Yes. So I want to talk about some of the things that you've been convicted of in the last 10 years, all right? So it looks like most of these convictions were in 2015. Were you convicted of assault and battery? Yes. And there was a criminal conspiracy. Is that right? Yes. And then attempted murder and 2 counts of burglary? Yes. So that was all one sort of case. Is that right? No. That was more than one case? Yes. Tell me, how many cases was that? The attempt murder was one case. The assault and battery was another case. The 2 burglary charges was another case. And it was like 6 different cases. Okay, but you disposed of them? They were all adjudicated around the same time on April 13th of 2015. Is that right? Yes, ma'am. All right. So you are in, and that was from the state of South Carolina? That's who prosecuted you. Is that right? Yes, ma'am. So you're in state custody now, not federal custody? No, ma'am. So you understand, Mr. Sullivan, that I do not have the authority to ask the South Carolina State Court to reduce your sentence, right? Yes, ma'am. I've told you that? Yes, ma'am. Okay. What you have wanted is that you want to be moved to a different prison, right? Yes, ma'am. And why is that? The purpose for me even just going through with this is the fact of the matter that if I did this right here, that y'all had to protect me. Like, I wasn't going to do this, period, point blank, if you wasn't going to guarantee my safety. Just period, point blank. I didn't have no other reason to come and do this, period, besides y'all asking me to do this. So when you say asking you to do this, what have I asked you to do? To come in here and tell the truth. So let's talk about the structure of the GDs in South Carolina. First, let me ask you this. Did you hold the position of authority? Yes. What was your POA or position of authority? First C. So what does a first C do in South Carolina? Basically just kept things it was like an area. You would just control a certain area of the city. And what city were you in control of? Greenville. Greenville, South Carolina? So did you have anybody who assisted you? Yes. What was that person called? It's a regent. So is a regent above you or below you? Above me. So you were the first C, and then there's a regent. Who is above the regent? You start proceeding the board members from there. There's a regent, there's a co-regent, the first C, secretaries, enforcers, stuff like that right there. So you had an enforcer for the state or for the city or both? That's a different level when you go to the state. It's broke down in regions in our state. I'm sorry. Go ahead. In our state, it's broke down in 4 different regions. It was just the 864, the 843, and the 003. They gave the PD their own area, so they made the state into 4 sections. So you got 4 regions that's going to control the state. All right. When you said they made your state into 4 regions, who is they? You were dealing with the board members, the governors and stuff that would make the situation. Okay. So on the region level, what region was yours? 864 region. So there are numbers. 864, is that what you said? 864, that's the area code. So you had this area code region, 864, and you said that there were some state officials above you. Is that right? And so who was above? Who controlled the entire state? What were their positions called? The ones that control the entire state would be the governors, the assistant governors, you got state governors. You got the state treasurers. That's basically just about it. So you said that there was an enforcer for the region. Was there also an enforcer for the state in South Carolina? You might have, but I don't know. And was there also security? Of course. And was there security for your region? You got a state. You got one for the state, and you got one for the region. So that's who's over the South Carolina that controls the state. Were there people above the South Carolina control, in other words? I don't understand what you're asking me. So is there a national control as well as South Carolina? Of course. There's going to always be others that we got to report to. So who else do you have to report to? Besides your state, it's going to go through the chain of command. The ones who are on the lower level, just like the OSMs, will report to the POAs. The POAs is going to report to whoever's going to be above them. The ones who is, as far as regions, co-regions, they're going to report to the assistant governors and governors, and then they're going to report to whoever they need to report to. Okay. So what's an OSM? Outstanding member. That's your kind of rank and file person? Yeah, just lower level, basically. So I think you said that they report to a POA, right? Is that right? Yes. So a POA is position of authority? Is that what that means? Yes, ma'am. So now when we move above the state, higher than the state, when you talk a regent level, many states, is there somebody that comes above the governor of a state? Comes above the governors of the state? No. You got a board. It would be just like if you ran a nonprofit organization. If you ran a nonprofit, you would have either your presidents, you're this, you're that. Everything is broke down into a structure, period. So everybody is going to report to somebody regardless. So obviously, there's going to be other people that's going to be above a governor's level or somewhere to that nature. Have you heard the term governor of governors or gov of govs? I done heard something like that before. So, do you know who the governor of the state of South Carolina reported to? Not necessarily. Did you ever come, as a gangster disciple, did you ever come to Georgia for any reason? I done been in here. But when you say a gangster disciple, you're going to confuse me because as a gangster disciple, no, I ain't been down here. As a growth and development, I done been down here. You're dealing with two different structures. All right. Let me ask you then. As growth and development, did you come to Georgia? Of course. Who did you see in Georgia when you came? When I came, we just report out of... I done met a couple people down here. I came down here. I done met Osiris. I done met Spike. I done met KK. I met Izzy. So what was your business, your growth and development business, down here with Spike? No, just basically just the first time meeting. Really during the time when I actually started coming down this way, a lot of us wasn't really familiar with a lot of us down here. So we started coming down here just basically getting familiarized with a lot of the things that was going on. So basically, when I met him, I just met him at the shop because he just did tattoos. But there was a point when you did come down here to discuss growth and development business with him, wasn't there? Say that one more time. There was a time after that when you came down here to discuss growth and development business with Spike, wasn't there? No, I don't recall really depending on what type of business you're talking about. Well, let me be specific. Did you come down here to negotiate counterfeit money? Not with Spike. Who did you come down here to negotiate counterfeit money with? Just politic, just in general with KK and a couple other people. All right. So you came down here to discuss counterfeit money with KK? It wasn't necessarily just the fact of the matter coming down here to discuss that, but that has become a topic of conversation. So what was the conversation that this was a topic of in that case? What was the conversation of the topic of the case? Say that again. So what did you talk about regarding counterfeit money? Oh, basically we just came down here and bought it. Like, there was just something that we wanted when we came down here, so we asked about it. And so basically it was just we pay like $200 or whatever for $1,000 for the counterfeit, and we would take that back to our city. So who did you ask about it when you came down here? Who did I ask about it? The majority of the time when I came down here, if I had to go through anything, I would go through Osiris. He was more familiar. Like, he was already in our city. So by him being in our city, when we came down here, or if I brought him down here to see his kids, then I would ride around with him. I would just drive him around, period. So whatever it is, it's like, it wasn't just me personally that came down here. It would be a group of us. And if it's like, whatever it is that came up, it's like, okay, yeah, alright, I'll deal with that too. So it's like somebody else might spark the conversation. And if I see something else that I want to get into, I get into it. So the group of people that you came down here with, were they all growth and development? Yeah, everybody that I traveled with was growth and development. And why was that? That was just how we were. Let me show you what's been admitted as Government's Exhibit 795. If you look, there's a little screen to your right. No, the other way, the small screen. Do you recognize who this is? Yeah. Who is that? That's Spike. So you said that you met with him to do some politicking, right? Yeah, we politic before. So why would you politic with Spike? He's the governor. So he's the governor of what? Of Georgia. And let me show you what's been previously admitted as Government's Exhibit 776. Please, Miss Etienne. And who is this, Mr. Sullivan? That's Iz. And how did you meet Iz? I met him at a shop. It's like an SOS deli shop, basically. We came down here just one day and one day just traveling, the same thing. Basically, when I went over there and just a group of us as a whole, we just introduced, just give us the layout and run out of just how things basically are going down here. So when you said you went over there, is that the SOS deli shop? Yeah, that's where I always met him at. Who brought you to the SOS deli shop the first time? I drove, but how did you know it was there? Oh, as always, I rode with Osiris. Well, I drove, but he just showed me where it was at. Okay, so Osiris showed you that there was an SOS deli shop? Yes. And did this person work at the SOS deli shop? Yeah, it's like he had a little booth or something, like sold various little things in there. And the government's exhibit 485, please, Ms. Etienne. So look on the screen there, Mr. Sullivan. Do you see that tattoo that is in government's exhibit 485? Yes, ma'am. And what, if anything, does that mean to you? The 6-point star and the boss above his eye. So what does that mean? That just basically shows, I guess affiliation. That would be the same thing that's on my back. So you have that 6-pointed star on your back? Yes. Is that because you're a member of Growth and Development? Yes. Did you ever have a conversation with the man in government's exhibit 485 about some cocaine? We all been a part of the situation. It wasn't just me that just asked him about it. Like I tell you, most of the time when we travel in a group. And because of who I was with, yeah, it did come up to the fact of the matter of what we could actually get when we was down here. Okay, so let's talk about what the group talked about with this person. And what was the conversation? The conversation just basically started off to figure out, like, what we could get as in jewelry-wise while we was down here in this period, just to hustle and make money. A couple of them asked a question as far as how they can get a brick. You know what I mean? What do we have to pay for a brick? So when the prices came up, it was like between 19 and 25. He said that he can get this done. A brick? What is a brick? How much is that? A brick would be a kilo of cocaine. All right. So it was between $19,000 and $25,000 a brick? 19 to 20. That's only because of the fact of the matter that we will be linked into the organization. Others will probably have to pay more. So you got a discount because you were a part of the organization? Of course. And so is that a good price, 19 and 25 in South Carolina terms? Of course it would be. So how much money would you expect? If you paid $19,000 for a brick, how much could you parcel that out and sell it for when you got back to South Carolina? I could probably make over $50,000 off of that. And then government's exhibit 43, please, Miss Etienne. So government's exhibit 43. Look at the screen. Now, you know who that is, right? Yeah, yes. Who's that? Osiris. So that's the guy who was your tour guide down here? Yes, ma'am. And he was your friend, right? Yes, ma'am. How did you meet Osiris? I met Osiris when he came to the city in Greenville. Basically, when he just parked up there. He was introduced to me. During these times, I just came out of prison myself, so I really wasn't on the streets. It's too long. But he was introduced and just basically said he was going to be there. Well, he didn't say it. It was told to us that he was going to be in the city for a while and just lay low. And the city being Greenville? Yes, ma'am. And when you said to lay low, let me first ask you this. Was Osiris a member of Growth and Development? Yes, ma'am. And what was he laying low about? He had a choice. He was on the run from down here. So if you're on the run from Georgia, why would you go to Greenville, South Carolina? I mean, it's not necessarily why would you go to Greenville. It's just the fact of the matter, just as well as when I went on the run, I came here. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Let me stay with Osiris for a minute. So Osiris had some kind of charge down here, right? Yes, ma'am. Are there growth and development people in Greenville, South Carolina besides yourself? Yes, ma'am. How did you know he was coming? I didn't necessarily know he came. It was just the fact of the matter, when he showed up, we just gonna embrace him because he was part of the nation. So is there a rule about embracing people who are part of the nation? I mean, I ain't gonna really say it's a rule. Like, you're gonna embrace and you're gonna, you're gonna deal with who you want to deal with. Just because a person is supposed to be the same that you are, it doesn't mean that you actually have to deal with them on a daily basis or just deal with them, period. You're gonna gravitate to who you feel you are right with. Alright. So when Osiris shows up in Greenville, what is it that you did for him? I mean, we just, basically just helped him out, gave him a place to stay. You know what I mean? Provide him with whatever he need provided with. If he wanted to come down here and see his kids, I'd bring him down here to come see his kids and so forth. And you had not met him before he showed up in Greenville? No, ma'am. Was the fact that he was also a growth and development person, did that matter to you when you started helping him out? It's going to always matter because, really, basically, if you ain't growth and development, I really didn't have business dealing with you, period. Like, you was outside of the circle where we was actually at. So, yeah, if he wasn't growth and development, then I would have bypassed him. Now, Osiris Kelly, was that his actual name? Osiris, was that his given name? That's what we called him, but his name is Javante Kelly. And Osiris, when you called him Osiris, what letter of the alphabet does Osiris start with, if you know? O. Did you ever call him O? No. Now, you said that Osiris Kelly had a charge down here. Did he ever tell you what that charge was? He didn't necessarily just tell me that. He actually had the charge. It was just the fact of the matter that he was on a move, and he needed to go to a spot to lay low. Well, if the police was actually looking for him during this time, this is what came about. It did come out. The fact of the matter that he was on the run for a body. For a what? For a body. For a murder.